The 2000s was the best time to be alive as a kid. Studios like Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon, Disney Channel were making banger after banger in terms of memorable TV shows and movies. Some were fondly remembered for the quality in storytelling, animation, characters, and other shows were remembered for their strangeness. Shows like Courage the Cowardly Dog, Flapjack, Mr. Meaty. Fuck that show, genuinely a rotted stain in my brain. Anyways, shows like those contained weird scenes that felt out of pocket for the target audiences. Whether we were scared, disturbed, or fascinated by the grotesque imagery, we still looked back at those scenes to this day, but nothing would ever rival the dreadful aura that Where the Wild Things Are produced. 2009 was the year we were sucker punched with the movie adaptation of Where the Wild Things Are. If no one read the original children's storybook to you as a kid, and I don't know, you had a shitty childhood, I guess. But why am I talking about this now? Well, since it's October, that is, if I can put this video out in time, and October is all things spooky, I figured it was the perfect time to unpack some childhood trauma that me and many others gained from watching Where the Wild Things Are. So today's video will be a review of the movie with a video essay. A 2-for-1 special! You're welcome. Now then, before rewatching the movie with the lads, the majority of the movie was a blur to me. The only few things I do remember were the big monsters, the shitty ending, the vor scene, someone's arm being ripped off, the bickering, the vor scene. I mean, Christ, I remember how unpleasant it was watching that scene as a kid, and rewatching it was even more unpleasant to watch. But most importantly, I remember not liking the movie because it made me feel bad. It made me uneasy. Why? I couldn't tell you 3 years ago exactly why. But with some reflection and watching clips on TikTok, I started to formulate why it was so uncomfortable for me and many others to watch Where the Wild Things Are. I just needed to rewatch the movie to confirm. And no, it's not because of the vor scene. 30 seconds into the movie, the kid is strangling the fucking dog. Amazing. This kid is demented. But really, I was surprised with how well crafted the movie was. It's nowhere near close to being a cinematic masterpiece, of course, but there were a lot of scenes that were pleasing to the eye. With pleasant moments, there's also unpleasant moments. Yes, the vor scene was one of those. The unpleasantness really does lie within the scenes where the characters begin to argue with each other. It feels like you're sitting there awkwardly listening to them fighting. The music stops while they argue, adding more anxiety to the situation. I think the silence without the music is deafening. A genuine uneasiness cascading over me. What's funny too was my friends and I were yapping the whole time watching the movie, but whenever the characters began to argue, the call went silent. Just goes to show how powerful those scenes really were. But those moments only serve to enhance the watching experience. If Where the Wild Things Are was a horror movie, or at the very least a thriller, the movie just felt a bit too mature for a PG movie. A movie that seemingly was marketed towards kids. I won't say kids in general shouldn't watch the movie, it's perfectly fine. Just be prepared to see something different in their eyes once they're done watching it. One big gripe that I have with the film, however, is it felt way too existential. Don't get me wrong, I love movies that leaves me with some level of dread that cannot be avoided. It has to be done right, of course. But with The Wild Things Are, it felt so random. So rushed. Literally, at the very beginning of the plot, a science teacher was talking about the sun, and then at the end, just casually mentions the sun was gonna explode. Like, okay, like, why would you say something so nonchalantly? Yeah, guys, the sun is gonna die, and we'll be plunged into darkness. Anyways, I'll see you tomorrow. Bye! Definitely jarring for a film like this, but fuck it, I guess. A mix of uncomfortable and heartwarming moments. Where the Wild Things Are is a competent movie even after all these years. I give it a 3.5 out of 5. I'd easily recommend giving it a rewatch if you were the unfortunate ones who watched it as a kid. Oh, also, the guy who played Tony Soprano, voiced Carol. I thought I should mention that before moving on. Alright then. Now it's time for the video essay portion of the video. PTSD. Post-traumatic stress disorder. When you hear PTSD, the first thing that might pop into your head is a veteran snapping back to the front lines after hearing fireworks being set off. Sounds, smells, sights almost resembling gut-wrenching events causing a person to lose their minds. Yes, these mental scars, when reopened, often leaves even the strongest of men immobilized with fear. The same exact fear experienced when the trauma first began. Judging by my own experience and comments I've seen, I believe that children of the 2000s experience a level of PTSD while watching Where the Wild Things Are. This is purely speculation. I could be right, I could be wrong. That is up to the comment section to decide. Perhaps there are some of you who think I meant Where the Wild Things Are traumatized kids with the puppets or some grotesque scene. This is not what I mean. When I say the movie gave kids of my generation PTSD, I mean the movie triggered the child to feel a level of distress because it reminded them of a past event that still lingers within their malleable minds. That being, fighting amongst parents. How the movie is able to do this is through the moments where the characters on screen begin to argue with each other. Every time this happens, it follows a pattern that aids in making the moment more intense, more realistic. It starts off with the characters having fun, all laughing, all having a good time. Something inconvenient happens, and everything stops. The upbeat music, the smiles, conversations just stop. Then begins the argument portion. They yell at each other, taking everything to heart. The outcome varies. Either they make peace, or the altercation ends poorly. A pattern like this might be all too familiar to us when we were kids. You're just having fun one day as a kid, minding your own business or playing with someone. Everything seems to be so whimsical to you. But the mood quickly sours when you hear your parents start to yell at their spouse or at you. What can you do? Nothing. All you can do is wait. Wait until they stop yelling and pray it doesn't escalate beyond that. In this moment, everything seems to become silent besides the back and forth screaming, the intensity of the argument overpowering your senses, which only increases the fear you might feel during the argument. But you have to sit there and bear it all. And once again, you have to sit there and watch these big, terrifying beasts yell and snarl at each other, making you feel unnerved. More than likely, the effects weren't as severe to where you left pissing yourself. But perhaps you left with a sour taste in your mouth, a dreadful sensation that lingered for days, a potent kickback to stressful times that made you no longer want to rewatch the movie. For most, the trauma of our parents letting out wall-piercing screams in the middle of the night wasn't as strong for us to never enjoy a piece of media with scenes with confrontation. Where the Wild Things Are, however, presents these scenes in such a way that it comes together to form the perfect storm. But why would they make a movie for kids like this? It's definitely not because they wanted to get kids to crawl back into their skins, but rather it is a Trojan horse. Within the scenes where the monsters are fighting lies a message to the parents watching along with their kids. less so a message, and most so a mirror. A lens that the parents can see through and witness how a child could view them while they argue and yell over petty things, like ugly, unrelenting beasts. In this pursuit to open the parents' eyes, our young minds were once again reminded of the horrific events that transpired within sacred walls, with people that we felt safe with. Where the Wild Things Are rang a bell that awoke in so many demons with the youth of the 2000s that even to this day, not a single show or movie came close to having the same effect. Again, I have to say that this is purely speculation. This might be a clear-cut case of projection inventing an issue that never existed. But who knows? Maybe what I've said is true. Maybe there are a group of you who felt a level of PTSD as you watched the movie. With this video, I very could have opened up a can of worms not even considered. Who knows? Time has passed long enough for it to finally part its tail to us.